camera, lights, action.
Action.
Model.
I'm telling you. Not my monkeys, not my circus.
We're here again. He's hanging around for a little while.
Well, you need a little troll help. You know, the trolls are coming out the woodwork.
You gotta get rid of that cup there. It's still too Christmassy there. You want some coffee?
I had a cup, but I didn't get no coffee.
I want to make sure the troll...
I was looking for ice, but those I found was ice packs.
Is he in... give me the thumbs up if he's got the spotlight. There he is. He's sticking around a little while. You know what I mean? Even though Christmas is... it's not here. How was your Christmas?
Magnificent.
So listen, what's what?
What's what? So what's new and exciting in the world?
Well, it depends what world you're talking about. You're talking about the real world or the underworld?
I guess we're here to talk about the underworld, so.
These things ain't bad. These what do you call these, Waterloos?
What's that, fizzy water?
Yeah, I had a, what do you call before? It was like a, I think it was a, what was I drinking before? Like a blueberry one? That's lemon lime, whatever. So Butchie. Son of a Butch. What, you asked me something before. I forgot what it was. We were off air. Oh, we got a behind the scenes video. We got to play it.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, when we were in the cigar lounge.
Nice.
My joint over there.
Oh, yeah? Oh, yeah. Well, the last time we were chatting a little bit.
Yeah, don't give out the name, but...
Right. Well.
Yeah, we were chatting over there. It was like a behind the scenes. You've seen the video, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think you sent it to me.
Yeah. Came out all right. I mean, it doesn't... You're not planning for now. It's behind the scenes.
Right. No, that's... that was different because, it wasn't... It was just random. Didn't even know it was happening.
I found some, I talked about it. I found some that I think I'm just as much as interested, or if not even more interested than jiu-jitsu. And you know how nuts I got about jiu-jitsu. You know about that.
Let me guess. Ballroom dancing. No?
No.
Okay, it was a shot. Something nobody could believe?
Hot yoga.
Not regular yoga, but hot yoga.
It's got to be hot.
Because it ain't hot enough.
It's not sweat. You know he told me...
you're sweating to the oldies.
Sweating to the oldies. So when you're sweating to the oldies, let me tell you something about hot yoga, right?
It's hot.
Oh, wait. Let me tell you this about yoga in general, right?
I know one thing about it. It's way harder than it looks.
Bro, you got no idea. I'm telling you, let me tell you something. What I'm learning is also, too, is the meditation part of it, okay?
Getting your inner peace on?
So it keeps you centered. In your lifetime, you'll never master yoga. I mean, like, there's not enough time in your life to master it.
Right.
There's no belt system. There's no competition.
And you actually like that? Bro, you're the most competitive guy I know.
Not really.
Really?
No.
I'm sorry. For how many years did you have to chase that #1 producer in the country thing?
Well, that was a different stage of my life. What do you mean producer? Be specific here, because people might get the wrong impression. When you mean producer of what?
Oh, income. A producer of income, which is actually a finance and insurance guy in the car business.
That's a different story. That is a naturally competitive environment. What I'm saying is this. If you walk into a jiu-jitsu school, a dojo, a real one,
right.
Okay? Not a big dojo. You come in there, and eventually it's a very competitive environment. You're competing for a belt. You're competing to win the fight. It's very competitive. Natural environment. Yoga, total opposite. You're competing with yourself. You're fighting with yourself. Everything is yourself. Nobody around you is fighting for a belt. Nobody around you wants to fight.
Right. There's not a position or a place.
You go in there, you are your own practice. Your practice starts on your terms when you want, and it's part of your practice. And you don't need a partner. You don't need nothing. It's your practice. And you basically fight everything, with yourself. It's what you get out of your practice, right? So anyway, I'm walking down the street, the area I hang out in,
Right.
and I see this place being built, constructed from the ground up, right? Well, it's not a ground up building. The building was there,
Right. It was a build out.
right? Build out, renovation. Used to be a boxing gym. Somebody took it over.
They leave the ring in there?
I tell you, I'm not saying this because I go there. The two nicest people you could ever meet, women. The two nicest women own the place. They're unbelievable. For as long as I know them.
Right.
Really good souls, like in and out. Like there's not a treacherous bone in their body, So I'm walking by that joint. Remember we go for coffee?
Right.
So in between that place and my place
is that place.
You got the place now, right?
That's the place.
So in that place, I'm walking by and I see this place being built. I'm saying, wow, look at this.
What place?
I walk in, and a lot of these hot yoga joints, I remember years ago when I was doing jiu-jitsu, there was a hot yoga joint next door. And I wanted to join, I wanted to do it. The smell that came out of there, I said, how the
Oh, yeah, bro. You're in there just sweating all that toxins.
And they had a carpet in there. So I said, I'm not going to this place. So I thought now when I see hot yoga, I think, I'm not going to go in there. It's
stinks,
disgusting. Right? Bro, they keep this place immaculate. Immaculate. I mean, there was zero smell. There was zero, places. They do a phenomenal, excellent job. So I walk in there and I just want to see the place. And, there's two rooms. One is for the hot yoga and the other one is non-hot yoga where they do different types of yoga. Right? So right away I said, you know what? Let me just jump into this. I sign up. I said, give me an unlimited membership. And it was the first of the month, I think about 2 months ago, right? I says, I'm just going to walk in. She said, well, we got mats that you could use and we got stuff that you could use. They have a mat and then you lay a towel on top of the mat. They say you can use ours. Okay, no problem. Bro, the first class, I tell you.
When you realize how out of shape you really are?
Holy shit. I walk in there, it's 105 degrees, first off. I'm in there gasping and it's a 75-minute class. Like when you're in a room and you keep staring at the clock?
Like being in school? Yeah. You watch it, 3 o'clock.
When do I get out? When's it over?
Right.
It was like that. Jiu-jitsu, I remember in the beginning when, you're going in, you're getting your ass kicked.
Right, I was going to say, you're too busy getting choked out to know where to go.
You don't look at the watch because you say, oh, you know what? It's over at some point, right? But man, this was a situation where I'm looking at the clock. I'm going, you got to be kidding me. I don't even know if I could stay in this room for another hour. And you're sweating you're just drenched. And you're exercising. So now she's taking you through, movements. It's called the flow. I'm doing the best that I could because she told me. She said, look, just do what you can.
Right.
Take what you can, leave the rest. I said, wow.
Good advice.
Well, I should have listened to that through my whole life. Take what you need, leave the rest.
That might have changed the outcome if you had that little tidbit of advice before you were busy on take everything and, leave the coffee, grab the cannolis.
I go into the class. I survive. I said, you know what? I'm not leaving. I'm not giving up. I could be passed out on the floor. You know me. I don't quit.
No.
Right? You know that about me. There were people that were literally walking out of the class. 15 minutes in, they're walking out. Half hour in, they're walking out.
You'll die before you leave. Yeah.
Yeah. I says, you know what? If I pass out,
they'll carry me out.
Carry me out of here. I'm not quitting, especially the first class. Not a good look, right? So anyway, I just laid there. The last 20, 30 minutes, bro, I couldn't move anymore. I just laid there and I just grabbed my head
how did I get talked into this mess?
I just grabbed my head what the f***? How did I put myself in this position, right? Anyway, class is over. I walk out of there. It's like if you walk into a shower with your clothes on. If I put you in a shower right now, your clothes on, and you walk out,
right?
That's how I was when I came out. That's soaking wet.
Like you got hosed down for the Johnny Pump?
Yeah. With my clothes on.
Right.
I walk out and I said, what the f-? Right? I'm sitting
And
there.
people do this for fun? Right?
I'm sitting
And
there.
people do this for fun? Like, what's wrong with these people?
I tell you what, though, I went, I got a towel, I dried up as much as I could, put a jacket on, I got in my car, I went home, I took a shower. About an hour later, right, I felt amazing. Like from day one. I said, man, there's something to this. Anyway, you're sore because, you worked out.
Right. You use muscles you're not used to using.
I tell you, now I'm hooked. Now, the days I don't go, I'm pissed. I'm pissed off.
Okay.
Now I built up to where I go 2 days on. 2 days on, 1 day off. So I need a day rest.
So every third day you take off.
No, it'll fall different every week. I might go Sunday, Monday, take off Tuesday, like today. Take off, right? So now I'll go 2 more days, I'll take off. So whenever it falls, right? There's classes every day. But you got some people, they're doing this like twice a day. Not once, twice a day. They'll do a session in the morning, practice, and a practice in the evening.
Practice?
Yeah. And I mean, I thought like I'm talking to people and I'm saying I'm 58 years old. These guys in there, they're like, okay, I'm 68. Guy's ripped to shreds, like in shape and everything else, and doesn't even look 58. And he's 68. He goes, yeah, I've been doing this for 15 years. He said, it's the fountain of youth. I really believe it's the fountain of youth. Because think about it, all the stretches and all the stuff that you're going to do helps you with daily life. Okay, so all the things, bending down to pick up something, getting in and out of the car, carrying shopping bags, lifting something, doing something, right? You're going to stretch a part of your body, okay? And a lot of times as you get older, what happens? Either your back goes out, your knee goes out, your hip goes out. That's when the problem starts. Then you take a fall and then boom, before you know it, you're dead. This keeps you limber, stretches out your spine, keeps your spine aligned, keeps your alignment. It keeps your spine stretched. Everything is where it's supposed to be. So with jiu-jitsu, I got a lot of injuries. I popped my elbow.
You blew your thumb or something out.
Thumb, my toe, all these things, right? My neck, all gone. It's not gone. The injury's still there.
The pain is gone.
Pain's gone. No BS. My neck, pain's gone. My thumb, my toe, my elbow, gone.
Yeah, jiu-jitsu, effective as it is, but it's hard on you. I mean, look, I know people personally with the cauliflower ears and, hand issues.
My first class, I got to mention this guy. Well, the 2 ladies that own the place, right? I mean, love them. I mean, really, like, they eat, live. Everything is, it's not a side business for them.
Right. It's a lifestyle.
It's their passion.
Right.
They live it.
Right.
They preach it. They live it. They're legit. My first class, right? I walk in. I see this guy. Well, he looked like Gandhi. Bald head, glasses. Israeli guy with an accent. I'm not making fun of him, but he had like an accent. Right. I walk in. I was like, like what a yogi is supposed to look like?
Right. He looked like the guy on the poster.
I thought it was like, like you could put this guy on. He should be the poster child for yoga. He's got the look. He's got the whole thing. I walk in. I go. He goes, welcome. Look at him. I'm like, what do I? He says, we'll get you the mat. Lay down. I said, where do I put my watch and everything? He goes, well, do you need it? I go, no. Well, then put it away. Nobody wants it. I say to myself, this guy's like in a state of zen.
Right. Yeah,
like,
he's bought in.
You know what? He's right.
Right.
I don't need the watch.
Yeah.
What do you need the watch for? You need the watch?
No.
Wear the watch. You don't need the watch? Take it off.
Right.
Real simple. Right to the point. I go through the class. Right? At the end, I'm laying down. He walks over. He puts a cold towel on your head, and just like, hey, like he puts you like in a meditation, like the last 10 minutes
Right.
or last 5 minutes, you go into like a meditation zone. I couldn't because I was just,
All revved up.
gasping for friggin'. I'm like, and before we start the class, he goes, look, if it gets too hot for you, walk out. He says, and then come back. You don't want to come back, keep walking. I love this guy. Right? So anyway, he said, you could take breaks, you could do this, you could do that. He said, a lot of people, he said, they don't make the first class. They don't make it to the 75 minutes. So once I heard that.
Now you got to.
I said, no.
The line is drawn in the sand.
Carry me out on the stretcher. I'm going to be here. You don't know who you're dealing with, right?
Right.
I never knew a person like this existed. I go to his Instagram page. This guy lives like a real, like
a yogi?
Yeah. I mean, he really does exist.
Yeah.
I mean, I showed you.
I know. They didn't make it up.
This guy he'll go to like the Salt River and meditate for like 2 hours. People are trying to reach him on the phone. They doesn't give a shit, doesn't care about nothing. He gets into this Zen state and he's stretching. He's doing his yoga, right? But he's going into, he's tapping into his Zen. Nothing bothers him. I'm like, I can't. This guy is so centered. Right? And you talk about flexible. That's the physical side of it. Well, now he's one of my instructors. Now I'm learning from him. I'm learning from one of the owners of the school. This guy, bro, I mean, I can't, there's no way. I mean, the positions he goes in and what he does and what he accomplishes is unbelievable. So anyway, there's another yoga called yin yoga. It's called yin yang, right? But it's like the yin and the yang, but the yin of the yang.
Right.
This is a different type of yoga where you're laying down on the floor. It's a lot of floor movements, but you're decompressing your body. Okay, so it's not, it's strenuous in a different way. It's like going to like a masseuse and getting a hard massage.
That guy's.
You're rolling on balls. You're hitting pressure points. You're hitting things that go to your organs. I mean, all kinds of stuff. Blocks. You're laying on blocks.
It was like an acupuncture, pressure point type thing.
I did an hour of that. I cracked every bone in my body. I came out of there. I was like, felt like $1 million.
Really?
But you're tired because you really did work out. They're hitting your nervous system. Okay? So they're hitting your nerve endings. It's a different part. So you sneakily feel like you lifted weights for an hour, but you didn't lift nothing. I'm telling you, this thing to me is so amazing, right? And now, I got so passionate about yoga now. I came up with a name.
Well,
I bought the rights to it. Well, I didn't buy the rights, but the rights are bought. I can't buy anything. I'm on federal supervised release. I'm on probation. Right? It's called Wise Guy Yoga.
Wise Guy Yoga?
Yeah.
What's Wise Guy Yoga?
Let me ask the peanut gallery. You like that one? Give me the thumbs up or the thumbs down on that one. It's called Wise Guy Yoga.
And what's Wise Guy version of yoga?
Well, Wise Guy Yoga is for wise guys that take yoga.
Aha.
So basically what I'm saying is, if you're taking yoga, you're a wise guy.
Okay.
A wise guy yoga.
A little play on names. Okay, that works.
Well, it's going to be part of my story.
Well, it's the evolution of your story.
Right. And now,
you're always evolving. Look, this is something new to you. This is
we're going to evolve into yoga. And what's going to happen is Wise Guy Yoga is going to be a channel where it's going to be about healing. It's going to be about rehabilitating. It's going to be about, centering yourself. It's going to be about all these things that I'm learning from yoga.
Well, there you go. It's something you could share with the fans.
Right. They can follow me around. We're going to do some streaming. I'll take them through, what I do in my practice.
Yeah.
And then we're planning to have our own brand of mats, own brand of yoga mats, towels, blocks, all the accessories that go with yoga. Matter of fact, you ever hear these shirts, Spiritual Gangster?
I think I heard something about it. I'm not very familiar with it.
Yeah, they came out with a brand. I like it. It's called Spiritual Gangster. You see their shirts everywhere. It's a known brand.
Amongst the yoga community?
No, what I'm trying to say is I'm very impressed by what they did. So what I'm saying is that coming up with stuff that, and again, yeah, I'm passionate about it. It's not like I'm just doing this for.
Well, it's something you enjoy, and look, if if somebody's interested and they get involved in it and they like it and it's good and healthy, why not?
Well, let me tell you this.
Not a bad thing to do something
No,
positive.
listen, you just turned 60, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so
That's what they tell me anyway.
Okay, so here, I don't know if you got any back problems or you got any,
I got every kind of problem.
Okay,
you name it.
What I'm saying is, if you do yoga, if you do yoga, you don't got to worry about knee problems, back. Back's the biggest thing because you get into back issues, I mean, forget it. You got problems after problem and operations and the pain. It's you got to take care of your spine and you get of age, you get at an age where you start thinking about, I don't want to look like, how big my arms are. Like, how big are your arms? 17, 19, right. You're measuring your arms.
Right.
That doesn't count anymore.
No, it's my back don't hurt.
You start worrying about your spine, your organs, your
hip, your
knees.
A friend of mine just had a knee replacement. It's like the third guy, hip replacements. They give them out like candy bars. Hip replacements.
It's painful. And so you got to start thinking like that, and you just got to start thinking like, okay, how do you preserve yourself? The twilight years,
Well, the problem is nobody thought you were going to make it to the twilight years, just like me. I didn't know I was going to make it to the twilight years. I would have took better care of myself. Instead, yeah, everything.
And I know people are going to think, well, you're only doing yoga because of the women. I mean, it is.
Hey, look, if there's a bonus involved, that's okay too.
Yeah, but that's not the reason why I'm going.
Look, do you enjoy it?
I mean, listen, I love it. There's
do you feel 90%, good doing it?
I want to say it's probably about 90% women. Beautiful women.
Yeah.
With beautiful silhouettes.
Barely.
Beautiful silhouette of women.
But how come I haven't gotten an invite for this yet?
I can invite one friend a month.
There you go. But being you down to about one friend, it might work.
Stay tuned. Stay tuned for
I'm going
to wrap this up with this. Stay tuned for Wise Guy Yoga. It's coming to you. It's coming to a, what do you call near you?
Coming to the what's what near you?
So anyways, that's what's going on currently. Now, you wanted to talk about the underworld, so shoot.
What are the colorful fellas you got in the neighborhood we could talk about?
What?
What are the colorful people you got in the neighborhood when you grew up with?
There's a lot.
We could talk about.
There's a lot. Well, we went over Prince Street.
Mm-hmm.
But see, there's a lot more to Prince Street. What I want to do with Prince Street is I want to go over every made guy individually and give the audience a background of that guy.
A synopsis?
A little, yeah. And then what we could do is I could talk about all the incidents with that guy. And I could talk about how he approached things and his mentality and things that happen. Incidents that happened with that guy through my life where I see how he reacted to it. But you go up and down those blocks, let me tell you something. We had a lot of tough kids that came out of that neighborhood. A lot of tough kids. Most of them are not with us any longer. You know what they say, all the tough guys are in the cemetery.
Well, yeah, that's true.
I got to say, my grandfather, Frankie, he raised 6 boys, my father being one of them. And all of them were tough kids growing up.
Growing up back then, you had to be. That was back when, if you weren't a tough kid, you didn't survive.
They're all tough in their own right, A couple of them got hooked on drugs, which, is a shame, unfortunate. Like my Uncle Michael. Uncle Michael was tough. He fight, and he got an addiction. He passed away. My Uncle Lewis was the closest to my father.
Yeah, we've talked about him before.
Yeah. Yeah, he was shot 11 times, stuffed in a trunk. Was missing for like 10 days. They stuffed him in a magician's trunk.
Oh, it had a false back in the trunk?
So all his organs, whatever was, fell to the bottom. So we're still able to lay him out after 10 days.
That's a miracle.
So, yeah, he was a tough, ballsy kid. I mean, just too much.
Well, yeah, because that generation, what they were, that was the heyday.
That's the thing. If Lewis was around today, nobody do nothing. Lewis was around at a time where the mob was at its height. Okay? 70s.
Right. 60s, 70s, there were kids coming up.
You didn't get away with nothing back then. The littlest thing. There's guys today, or I heard even the past 10, 20 years, they did 10 times worse than Lewis ever did. Right? Whatever reasons they had,
Right.
killing them.
Well,
Okay?
never got the
Which
whole
would never
story.
be good enough for me. Right? Never got the whole story. There's a lot of stories out there. I'll go over it because now I know who was involved and how they did it and all that stuff, right?
But do you know why?
I really don't know why. There's a few reasons why that I heard. That'll be a whole nother thing. It gets complicated. But the point I will say is what I'm making is that there's kids that are around today in the past 10 years, 20 years, right, that done far worse than Lewis ever could have did. Man, nobody did nothing to them because the mob ain't the mob no more.
Well, no, it's like
Going the 70s, a lot of guys were around, a lot of serious guys. It was the heyday.
well, yeah.
Into the 80s,
Once everybody has a video camera and a regular camera in their pocket, and they got, you go to New York, they got a camera on every corner. The days of turning a corner and disappearing are over. The whole world is. You got to assume you're on camera at all times.
But Lewis, he would shoot it out with shootouts that shot by a cop. Stories I heard. Cowboy,
Mm-hmm. We all have. I had a cousin like that. He was.
Yeah, I think we all had one, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I remember I was a kid, because he was older. He was my mother's cousin, my grandfather's side of the family. He was one of the President Street guys, Red Hook guys. And they're watching TV or whatever. All of a sudden on the news, he's like on the back of a bus going by in a shootout with the cops, live on TV, on the news.
Live?
On the news.
In the middle of President Street?
I forgot exactly where it was, but he was running from the cops. Something happened. The car got smashed. He jumped on the back of a bus. Back then they had the grates on the back and the bumper you could just jump on when you didn't have money. That's how you get around the city,
Yeah.
And he got shot. He got shot by the cops. Like I said, this had to be early mid-70s. It was hysterical. Like, you're sitting going, is that? Yes, it is. Oh my God. My grandmother was like, just shaking her head. My grandfather get up, starts getting dressed. He's like, where are you going? He's like, well, I'm either going to go to the police station or the hospital, wherever they're going to send him.
One or the other, yeah.
He's going to one or the other.
Or both.
Yeah, hopefully not the morgue,
Yeah, it's the main thing.
But yeah, no, he was wild. He later in life met a woman who caught him in line. And that's a lot of the guys' stories, There's always something that woke them up to change their way of life. His was a woman. They got married, they had a kid, lived happily ever after, as far as I know.
I'm sure he's okay.
As far as I know, like I said, when I left New York, I left a lot behind. I haven't really been in contact with many people. Just kind of the way it went.
But as far as that was his last incident.
As far as I know, anyway, yeah.
Yeah,
him and his brothers, they were all like one crazier than the other. Joey the ball, he was the littlest one. Loved to fight, loved to drink. They all did. They all had a blast.
I tell my grandmother Jenny, my father's mother, I don't know how she did it. 6 boys. Tough woman. She was my favorite. Mother's mother, I loved her, but not like Jenny. Jenny was like a real, especially if you were a boy, like you were, a boy, a man.
Right.
She was that type of grandmother. You know what I mean? Mildred was more like a girly girl type of grandmother. You know what I mean? She's more like, I think my sister was closer with her, and my father's mother, I tell you.
Well, when you're raising boys like that, especially in that area at that time, you either get tough or you don't, and nothing good comes of it. A weak parent.
Right. No, speaking of my Uncle Michael, so you jogged my memory, right? So my Uncle Michael, he moves to Brooklyn. He marries Joe Butch's sister, Joe Butch Correo. You know Joe Butch,
Yeah.
right? You heard of Joe Butch?
Yeah, I know he married his sister.
Yeah, he marries his sister. I think his sister's name was Angela. And she had two sons, Vinny and Augie. I remember because they used to go out to Brooklyn and hang out with them and play with them, Well, I mean, you say playing because
Right.
you're younger, eh? We would drive like...
Just terrorizing the neighborhood in one form or the other.
So I think her name was Angela because I used to call her Aunt Angela. He actually got married to her, right? So I just thought about that. I forgot. So Joe Butch had a club on Mulberry Street between Hester and Grand for years. And he had a cafe across the street called Cafe Biondo. And Joe Butch was like a tall guy, tall, skinny guy, well-respected, well-known. So Uncle Michael marries his sister. So I used to meet, my Angela, my Aunt Angela, right? I think that was her name. And then her mother, Joe Butch's mother, would always be by the house. And a couple times Joe Butch came by. Well, as any couple, they would get into fights a lot. So I guess one fight happened where she called her brother up, and her brother sent a couple of guys over to beat my Uncle Michael up.
Calm things down? No. They weren't there to be the voice of reason, huh?
No. I'm going way back. I'm going probably in the 70s, maybe early 80s. I'm a kid. I think her son Augie died on a mini bike. He had like a mini bike accident. Something like that. I know it was a tragic something, but they were good kids. Her son Vinny, I don't know if they're still alive. I remember I used to box with them. My uncle was Sarah. We used to box. But it was a lot of fun hanging out with them in Brooklyn. We'd go, they'd take me around. We, like you said, terrorizing everybody. Right. I had heard Joe Butch sent a couple of guys over to beat my uncle up or take care, like you said.
Right.
My uncle had a pistol on him, and he went outside, stood in front of the door with the pistol out. They didn't call anybody, so they pull up, they see him, and they just turn around because they didn't expect them to,
right, to be waiting.
And I guess he didn't send them to kill him, So they turned around, they went back to Joe Butch, and then Joe Butch reached out to Joe Beck. Because at that time, my father was with Joe Beck. And they straightened it out that way. Yeah. I don't know how long he was married to her, but he was married to her for a few years at least.
That's a long road to travel, that one.
Yeah. I don't know how he wound up with her, how they met or whatever. I'm sure I'll get more insight into it. And I got pictures dug up somewhere, but it's funny because you say, I never consider myself related to Joe Butch. Even through marriage. I never consider myself being whatever,
Well, he was a pretty famous guy.
Yeah. Yeah, I knew him. Well,
but you know what I mean? It wasn't like, just people from the neighborhood knew him. He was known all over.
It was?
Yeah, people knew him all over the city.
I knew him from the neighborhood. There was a barber I used to go to called Sal's Barber. Like, there was a bunch of Sal's, right?
I was going to say, which Sal was it?
Which Sal was it? Yeah.
Was it tall Sal, short Sal, fat Sal, skinny Sal? How many Sals we got?
Sal the Barber.
Sally Boys.
Sally. So Sal the Barber used to talk like this.
Huh?
I talk like this. You want it shorter? You want it to,
Right. You want it like it was before?
Like it was. The rent stayed like the same as before. So anyways, he had a barber shop on Grand Street off of Mulberry, between Mulberry and Baxter. Around the corner of Grand and Mulberry, there's it used to be an old bank called Stabile. Stabile's like an old Italian family. They own most of the It's the Beal family. They
The
own a lot of
apartment
real
buildings?
estate. Yeah, they own a lot of real estate. Anyways, right next door to that was Sal the barber. Well, Sal the barber, in the front, he had a couple of chairs,
Right.
but then he had a back room,
Right.
you know? And then next door to Sal the barber's was the crab king. So Sal was like, I don't know what Sal was doing out there. I think maybe they had a bookmaking spot or whatever they had out of there, but Sal was double duty. So I remember as a kid, I used to go in there, go get a haircut. And you would see Joe Butch and his brother, I think his brother's name was Augie, I think, walking in and out of there, you know, calling Sal in the back, and he was with them. Now, Joe Butch, I think about it, growing up, every time I was around there, he would be in that cafe, Biondo, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't as friendly as, I'd say he was friendly, but not like not like O'Neill's Club, like, you know, the door was open,
Right.
they tell you, hey, they wave you in.
Yeah, everybody's different. You know, some people they like the kids around or whatever, especially the young up and coming kids, you know what I mean? Teenagers, 12, 14, 13. You know, it starts. Here, go run down over here. Go do this. And next thing you know, you got a job.
Yeah, I never had that relationship with him, but I knew of him, he knew me, he knew my family, obviously. Yeah, Sal the barber. Sal the barber. We used to go there, like you said.
Yeah.
You want like it the last time,
Right.
Well,
I told you, right? Look, every business at one point or another had another business in the back.
Then I go right up the block, the Florio's. Fried calzones, the best.
I haven't had one of those in a long time.
How long's it been, right?
Well, I can't.
So listen to this. There were two spots I would go to. Sal's Pizza, which was on Broome and Mott. Right next to my father had a club. Right next to Sal's Pizza. And Sal's Pizza, they would make the little mini pies. And they would make these little mini calzones, fried. Round, perfect. Round shape. In the end, they put a little hole in the middle. Mozzarella, ricotta.
Right.
And if you wanted meat in there, you tell them you want meat,
a little ham or something.
Little ham. They put that thing on a ladle and just swoosh it around the fryer. Come out, cut it in four. Man.
Used to get them at the feast.
And they used to make like single dishes, like the best over there, right? So I would go in there, I would get, like I say, linguine with clams. You want red or white? You go right in the back, make it from scratch. Linguine, clams, whatever sauce, the garlic, the tomatoes, come out. I would get that, and a mini pie is my bread. That would be the bread. Because the mini pies were perfect.
Right.
Cut them in four, like toast.
Right.
You said, right?
It's like Pop-Tarts.
Yeah. Pick it up, use that as my, put a bunch of cheese on there. It was unbelievable. But the fried calzones, only two joints that made them was Sal's, and then the other place was called Florio's. Florio's did it different. They would get it, and they would fold it in half.
Like a regular calzone.
Like a regular calzone, and fry it like that, and then put it in a paper bag.
Right.
And I think back then it was like maybe 75 cents.
Yeah.
It's like, I know it was under $1 because I used to walk in there with a bunch of quarters.
Right, and you get a soda and a thing and be done.
So get the paper bag, pull it out. That pull, mozzarella pull.
Yeah, the cheese.
Man.
I bet we could do it.
I used to do it in the restaurant. I did it a couple of times. You know the place I'm talking about.
Yeah, no, I know.
Before I got locked up on this beef, the restaurant that I had.
Yeah.
I went in the back. I had to.
Well, yeah. There's dough in a deep fryer. Something's happening.
Yeah. But you know what happened to me was the dough. It puffed up a lot.
Yeah. You got to make sure the air's out.
Yeah. But you can't pop a hole. See, when they used to bake the calzones, they used to put a little hole in there.
Right. But now when you deep fry them, you can't do it. You got to make them. You got to squeeze the air out, otherwise it blows up.
But man, the taste.
Oh yeah, you can't beat it. It changes everything, especially if it's it gets that light crispy on the outside. It's crunchy. You bite into it.
So my father had a club right next door to Sal's Pizza. He had games in the front. You're laughing.
Because
Joker pokers in the back with a card game, and there was a bar in the front, with a TV. What was a good spot? 369 Broom.
Mm-hmm.
That was the name of the bar, the club there.
No, I love your father. I get this, like I said,
He used to have an after hour years ago.
I may have heard that before. Yes.
It's called, because I know that's what you're alluding to.
Well, because it was funny because, you know, I happened to mention something about having an after hours club. And then, you know, your father broke right into Architectural Digest and started drawing and explaining everything you need to open up an after hours in New York, which I thought was very entertaining by the look on your face.
So I understand he had an after hour years ago. I was never up there.
You got caught
I
off
was
guard.
up there a couple of times.
You got caught off guard with that one.
I was up there a couple of times. It was called I think it was called the Greenhouse. You walked upstairs and it was a place, you know. Yeah, no, I tell you, I'm not saying this because he's my old man. There isn't anybody that I met on the street, off the street, out here that dislikes my father.
No. But
everybody loves him.
Look, I know your parents for a long, long time. They make me happy. They bring back memories. They're just the nicest people. You know, your mother just, you know, she brings back all the memories from being a kid.
But you got to, like, even on the street.
Yeah.
On the street, there's not one person that I never met anybody that there's, you know, sometimes you get people that talk about people.
Right.
You know, the guys will knock
Somebody's
guys.
got a story about him behind his back. He did something dirty or whatever.
Oh, I'm not.
No, I've never heard a peep about your father ever.
No.
Never.
Not a peep.
No.
That's why I say, you know what? They could call me whatever name they want. I don't give a f***. Walk in my shoes, okay? And let's see what you would do.
Right.
Because you only got one father. Everybody only has one. What would you do to protect that one?
Let's put it this way. You gotta remember, you know me. My mother died a long time ago. I was a kid when my mother died. If I go back in time and change it, there's nothing that's off the tables that I wouldn't consider to keep her alive. It's the truth.
You know what keeps me? I think about it. Yeah, you know, of course you get upset when people try to call you names. But
Well,
you look
especially
back,
when they're ignorant and don't know the whole story.
yeah, and especially when they don't got the balls to tell you to your face.
Well,
You know?
keyboard warriors.
Like I say, walk in my shoes and see what you would do. And I look at the other side of it, right? Let's say I would have chanced it and I would have said, you know what? They want to kill my father? You know what? He's his own man. You know, he could take care of himself. And then I don't do nothing.
Right.
And something happens. And I'm going to that funeral. And in my mind, I'm saying, you know what? I could have did something from where I was at. Because if I wasn't in jail at that time, I would have went about it a different way.
Right.
If I was on the street and I would have got wind of that.
Right.
If I would have...
Well, there was different avenues you could have took, but...
Yeah, I would not... I tell you the avenue I wouldn't have took. I wouldn't have walked into the FBI office. I wouldn't have walked in. I wouldn't have came in. I would have took... That would have been my last thing to do. I want to say exactly what I would have did. But what I'm saying is that if I heard that on the street, which never would have happened, but let's say I got wind of it, okay, I would have approached it differently. I wouldn't have called up the feds and say, hey,
right.
I would have went and did it a different way. But you know what? This was the better way to take care of it. Because now I look back and I go, everything worked out, you know?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I know people on both sides of the fence. Look, I've told you this many times over the years. You know, your story is different. And that's one of the reasons why I'm supporting you with this show, because the truth is, people hear the story, and then they can make a judgment for themselves. You know, like I said, when, you know, oh, well, this and that, you know what? Family's first, because you only get one.
Always.
You know, that whole thing about, you know, family coming second to this thing, blah, 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 blah. is like I told you, is one of the reasons why I stayed independent for all those years.
I tell you what, Bo. When gas flipped,
All bets are off.
I'm not saying that's why I did it. I didn't flip till like
you told me you were steaming.
I didn't flip till like a year and a half after that.
No, I know you.
Bro, it was like a funeral. When he flipped, I was walking around like
that was the last thing you were expecting.
I'm walking around like people were coming over to me in the yard. Oh, hey, I'm sorry.
It's like somebody died.
It's like somebody died. They were giving condolences.
Right. Well, in technicality, it kind of do because they're gone forever after that. So you don't see them. You ain't going to talk to them.
I was...
look, I've told you before, and I'll tell you again, and I'll tell you here, whatever, in front of 8 people that listen to this thing. I don't blame it for a thing. Like I said, you didn't do it for yourself. You didn't do it for any other reason but to protect your family. And at the end of the day...
at the end of the day, there are people that are ignorant, okay? They're very judgmental. They don't want to... Oh, yeah, no.
You put them in the same position, see what they do.
That's my point. That's my answer.
Everybody's got an opinion until they're in a position where they have to make that choice for real. And it's different.
Until you've been in life and death situations, right? Then come talk to me. Until you've been in those positions, then you could say... That's why I take, like you said, opinions are like assholes, right? They all stink.
Right. Everybody's got one. They all stink.
And I ain't looking for praise. I'm not looking for nothing. At the end of the day, family first. You want to do that shit, gloves are off.
I told you.
You talk about other guys. Then you go like this. Then you say, you know what? Then you start looking and you start saying, okay, let's talk about that. Let's talk about the guys that did flip. I'll say it till this day. I'll bet everything I got. And I'm not a betting man. There's more rats. Let's not even use the word rats, okay? There's more confidential informants on the street than there are...
active members?
In the program.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
I'll bet everything I got. There's more confidential informants on different levels. There's like different levels to that. What level are they confidential and what are they informing on, okay? But between the 5 families that are out there, however many are left... 1,000 made guys, let's say another 5,000-10,000 of associates. Okay, out of that pool of people, and that's going high, right? I'm thinking 30 years ago. Okay, so let's just say the number's still 1,000 made guys, and let's take each guy has 2 or 3 associates. Right. Let's say, right? Take 5,000 people total. Mm-hmm. Not a lot of people. It's a lot, but it's not a lot in the big scheme of things, right? This is bringing the intelligence side of it. It's like educating the public out there, right? You take 5,000 people in a country that has 350 million people. There's more confidential informants out of those 5,000 people than there are on the program that already cooperated. I'll bet whoever wants to bet.
Absolutely. Now, and you take away not even just, bombed up people, in general, just... Even here in Arizona, the big thing is, snitch on 3 and go free. You turn
on 3 and go free.
You turn over 3 people.
Who said that?
And you walk on your case.
Where'd you get that from?
It happens all the time, bro. Every day.
Yeah, and then they didn't want to make it like, oh, well, the odds, right? The odds are, go to a penitentiary. There's so many cooperators. When you go to the feds, right, today, the way it is now, I know firsthand because I'm there. Not years ago, not in the early 90s.
Right.
I'm talking about nowadays. If you go to a camp, or if you go to a low, or if you go to a medium, right, there are 80% or above 85% of the people there have cooperated on their case on some form or fashion. And is sex offenders. Because now the sex offenders, through not years ago, like in the 90s, if a guy came in with a sex offense charge, he was hands-on. That guy got smashed from everybody instantly. Today, these sex offenders are doing sex crimes over the internet. They're getting whatever stuff they're getting, and they're downloading it on their computers.
Right.
And then, boom, they're getting whacked 15, 20, 25 years. Rightfully so.
Oh, per image.
However they do it.
Oh, no. They're handing out 100 years like it's nothing on those cases, as they should.
Good.
Because they don't count.
There's so many of them. If people do their due diligence and they look up the federal population of crimes, right? I think I know for sure there's over 50% of the federal inmates that are charged with sex crimes. It's like there's a small percentage, I want to say maybe 10 or 15% out of the population of inmates that are charged with, I don't want to say normal stuff.
Hands-on thing.
No, not hands-on. I'm talking about like bank robberies,
right,
murder beefs,
right,
conspiracy, this, that, I don't want to make it sound like, crime's crime, right?
Right.
But normal shit.
Right.
Not, rape and
sex crimes and stuff like that. Well, it's like, I can't remember the guy's name. He's got a YouTube, TikTok videos or whatever. It comes up on my Instagram feed. Big tattoo guy. Like, I don't know if he was Aryan guy, was in prison for a while. And he talks about it. And he says, there's no snitching on, predators. He goes, it doesn't exist.
There's no what?
Snitching on predators. Sexual predators, sex crimes, even sex crimes with women. He goes, in my prison, he goes, snitching on them didn't exist because they don't deserve protection.
Right.
He says that was the only green light you had. If somebody, because the first thing they do is they grab your paperwork. They go over they want to know what you did.
Yeah, right, exactly. But when I hit Latuna, Texas, I hit the compound. Right away, the different groups, see your paperwork. Okay? My paperwork said what I was charged with. If you Google me, you'll see who I really am.
Right, yeah.
Okay? Everybody's got phones.
Right.
What I learned was that the sex offenders, there was 1,500 inmates in Latuna, Texas. 700 of them were sex offenders. 600. I'd say about half the prison, half the jail. I would say guys coming in there like me that were charged with money laundering and wire fraud, right? It was Paisa. Paisa is Mexicans that are from Mexico. They're not the Mexicans that were born here. The Mexican Americans. Paisa, they call them. Huge. They pretty much run the jail. They got the biggest population, biggest numbers. Their car, call it a car, the biggest. So I would say, I don't know the exact numbers, but let's say they were 700. Sex offenders were like 600. And then the rest were guys like me. Maybe 100, 200 guys that were charged with, normal.
Regular, everyday stuff.
Yeah. I was like, wow. They had their own car. They had their own place in the mess hall. And they had their own, they protected their own. So, if you went up against them,
all of them, not one. Oh,
600 of them.
Right.
So I'm saying, how is this possible? We're in a low. And then they're saying the same thing as a medium. And now what they're doing is there's so many of them. They can't go to camp because automatically they get hit with a sex offense. It's too violent of a crime to get put in a camp. Camp, you got to be white collar and your points have to be way down. Even the mediums. So when these guys talk about, I'll go to a real jail. Well, who do you think's walking around the jails? Yeah, I don't care where you are. You're in a penitentiary, you're in a medium, whatever. I'm not saying everybody was a cooperator.
Right.
I'm not saying there's guys that were sex offenders, but I do know, I heard Atlanta was a penitentiary. They had to flip it over to make it all sex offenders.
The whole prison?
Whole prison. I heard Tucson, the jail out here, penitentiary. All sex offenders. Penitentiary.
The state or federal?
Federal. So when you talk about, system and stuff like that, totally changed. A lot of guys don't realize out of the population of prisoners in the feds, at least 85% have cooperated on their case in some form, right? And most of the population, I'm going to get the numbers next time we meet. Most of the population are sex offenders in the feds.
All right. Yeah, because good. Yeah, I got some questions popped up that we'll bring up in the next episode.
Yeah. Buddy, I don't know what you want to do. This troll is growing on me.
I'm telling you.
Okay.
As your little buddy, they can protect you from all your keyboard warrior trolls.
I don't know. He's this thing's hilarious, though. But what do you call? What are you gonna go eat?
I don't know. Where
I
do
got you
wanna
on the fried calzones, huh?
Nah, I'm telling you.
If you can find a spot now, you can't walk in a joint, get a calzone, and say, "Hey, fry it for me." They look at you like you got 3 heads.
I might know a place.
You might know a guy.
I know a guy. I got a guy.
Buddy. I'll see you when I see you, pal.